Hey guys, we're back. This time we're going to take a look at the Red Dragon Inn ally's brother Bastian. He's an interesting priest, I guess he is. I'm not sure what he is, high priest or something like that. And he has this cool prayer deck mechanic where he can have a couple extra cards that change from game to game, and you can cast them for these little prayer tokens. And basically they become extra cards that you have available to you the entire game as long as you have enough of those prayer tokens to cast them. It's a cool, interesting concept, and we'll get right in and take a look. The first thing we have is our little rule sheet. So Brother Bastian has this special little prayer deck he has. It's got 9 cards in it. At the beginning of the game you draw 3 random ones of those, and they're put face down, only you see them, and you keep them hidden until you build up enough of these prayer tokens in order to use them. Your various other cards are going to get you these prayer tokens, and then they have a cost up here to use them. Once you've used them, you flip them face up and they're revealed for the rest of the game, but you don't discard them. You can keep recasting those every time you build up the required amount of tokens. And they have anytime, sometimes, and whatnot on them, just like any other card, so you got to keep the timing in mind. And they all do various things. And those prayer cards never become part of your hand. They're always separate, so they don't count towards the cards that you can have in your hand. The action ones of them do count as action cards for your turn, though, so keep that in mind. And that's pretty much all there is as far as the special rules to him go. We have our small player board, which came with all the allies as standard. All allies come with the small alcohol and fortitude tokens. They're a bit smaller than the ones in the basic box sets. I like the glass beads myself, and I say that in every video, so people are probably tired of hearing it. Same goes for the gold coins. You get enough to add the character to your games to make sure you have enough coins to support them. These are considerably smaller than the ones from the base game. They're like nickel sized, where those are like $half sized. But you have plenty in there to use. You also get a pile of these prayer tokens. If you run out of prayer tokens, you're supposed to just use something else. They're supposed to be unlimited in supply. Don't think you're going to run out unless you're stockpiling them for some reason, because there is plenty there. And we have Bastian's prayer deck here, and like I said, there's 9 cards in there. You're going to randomly draw 3 of these, and they all do various things. There are sometimes, anytime, and action ones in here, so you have to keep in mind the timing of the cards. And these ones, like this one in this case, is a sometimes scar for 4 that allows you to negate a sometimes scar. Very powerful. You just have to have the 4 prayer tokens to spend on it. And there's some interesting ones in here that do some pretty cool stuff. On to Brother Bastian's actual deck, and they have him listed as a human cleric. Of course, as with all characters, you got about half of your deck that is dedicated to gambling, negate cards, and tip the wench cards, things like that. And then you start getting into more thematic cards for the character. Unlike the newer ones where they use the iconography for things to represent, these we actually say, it's in bold, but you got to pay attention. So in this case, you can either ignore a drink or reduce the alcohol content of a drink and take a prayer token. You can look at the drink first, so if it only has a 1, you can reduce it by 1 and still get the prayer token. But a lot of his abilities allow you to gain those prayer tokens, and then you're going to be spending those prayer tokens to activate the various prayer cards that you have access to. Because of those 3 reusable prayer cards you're going to have for your entire game, the rest of his deck is pretty basic as compared to a lot of other characters, but you gain those prayer tokens to reuse those cards, and that's really what makes his character stand out. The interesting thing is that they're randomly drawn 3 out of the 9, so you're not always going to get the very best of the best, which you would if you got to pick, and you're not always going to get the crappy ones, because there are a couple kind of meh ones in there. So it kind of balances it out and makes it an interesting and unique thing each time. Sometimes you're going to be a little bit more powerful than others. Sometimes you're going to be a little bit weaker. But in the end, it all balances out and makes for a interesting character that's kind of slightly different every time you play because of that. Overall, I like Bastian because he's a balanced, easy to pick up character. His mechanic isn't overly complicated. All of these old allies do that. If I was going to play a healer type character now, because there's so many other options out there, I think there's other ones I would choose over him. But for somebody who's just starting out and learning, he's a very simple and basic character with a cool ability that makes him unique from the others while not being too complicated. And I say that for a lot of the allies, but these older ones were much easier and much more streamlined, where the new ones are much more complicated, but also a little bit more unique in some ways. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for our look at Brother Bastian from our Red Dragon Inn. And as always, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.